You think you know the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. A golden-haired girl enters a house deep in the forest, tastes porridge, breaks a chair, and falls asleep in a stranger's bed. A simple tale about curiosity, boundaries, and moral lessons for children. Or so we have always believed. But what if I told you that the story of Goldilocks was never truly meant for children? What if her journey into the bear's dwelling was a fragment of something far more ancient, drawn from a pre-Christian ritual about the trespassing of the mortal soul into the realm of animal spirits? Hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly innocent children's tale in the coded myth that has endured for over 3,000 years. It speaks of transformation, divine testing, and the eternal tension between humankind and nature's forgotten guardians. Beneath the polished pages of Victorian morality, the story whispers of an archaeological truth buried in time, a relic of forest worship, initiation rites, and the golden-haired goddess once feared and adored in ancient Europe. Prepare to see Goldilocks and the Three Bears as you never have before, not as a bedtime story, but as a message from our prehistoric ancestors, preserved in the disguise of a nursery tale. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. Her hair shimmered like sunlight through autumn leaves, and her curiosity was said to be as boundless as the wind. One bright morning, as she wandered through the edge of a vast forest, she came upon a small wooden house. The smoke from its chimney curled lazily into the sky, and the door stood slightly open. Goldilocks knocked once, twice, but no one answered. The aroma of warm porridge drifted from within, so she stepped inside. On the table sat 3 bowls of porridge, one large, one medium, and one small. She tasted the first, too hot, the second, too cold, the third, just right, and she ate it all. Next, she noticed 3 jars. The largest was too hard, the middle one too soft, and the smallest, just right, broke beneath her weight. Feeling tired, she climbed the stairs and found 3 beds. The first was too big, the second too small, and the third, just right, soon lulled her to sleep. But this was the home of 3 bears, the great father bear, the gentle mother bear, and the playful baby bear. When they returned, they saw what had happened: the eaten porridge, the broken chair, and the sleeping intruder. Baby bear cried out, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." Goldilocks awoke in fright, saw the 3 bears staring down at her, and fled from the house, never to return. Some say she learned her lesson, others say the forest kept her secret. And in the end, as the story tells, curiosity met wisdom, and the world was made right again. That is the tale we all know. But behind this gentle moral fable lies a forgotten origin, one far older, darker, and deeply symbolic. To uncover it, we must journey backward in time, through centuries of changing beliefs and retellings. The story of Goldilocks was not always the tale of a polite little girl learning manners. It began as something else entirely. The earliest recorded version appeared in England in the early 19th century, in a collection titled The Story of the 3 Bears, published around 1837. Yet this version did not feature a young girl at all. Instead, it told of an old woman, a trespasser, a witch, or perhaps a beggar, who entered the home of the bears. She devoured their food, broke their furniture, and was chased away as punishment for her greed and intrusion. The moral was clear: respect boundaries, and beware of crossing into places not meant for you. A few decades later, writers softened the tale. The old woman became a mischievous child, and the once frightening bears were transformed into a kindly family. This change mirrored Victorian society's shift from pagan cautionary myths toward moral instruction for children. The dangerous wanderer was replaced with innocence. The threatening wilderness was domesticated into a moral landscape. As the story spread through Europe and America, illustrators painted Goldilocks as the ideal child of the new age, pure, blonde, and curious. But the pattern of trespass, entering a forbidden dwelling, testing what belongs to others, and confronting primal forces, remained unchanged. Some folklorists have traced earlier oral versions of the tale to northern Europe, where ancient woods were believed to be inhabited by divine bear spirits. These beings, half human and half animal, protected sacred spaces from human intrusion. Could it be that the House of the Three Bears was once a temple of the forest gods? Over time, the moral tone of the story changed, but its skeleton, the forbidden entry into the sacred domain, survived. Like an ancient fossil covered in new layers of meaning, the old myth persisted beneath the Christianized surface. When we peel back the layers of Goldilocks' tale, we find striking parallels to ancient myths across many cultures. In Norse mythology, the goddess Freyja, associated with beauty, fertility, and gold, was said to wander between worlds, often trespassing into the realms of gods and beasts alike. Her hair, like molten gold, symbolized the sun's power and the fragility of human desire. Goldilocks, with her radiant hair and restless curiosity, may well be a distant echo of this solar goddess. In Greek myth, the story of the maiden Psyche tells of a mortal who enters a forbidden palace belonging to divine forces. She disobeys warnings, explores hidden chambers, and faces punishment, yet through her trial, she achieves transformation and understanding. Goldilocks' journey through the bear's home follows a similar structure: temptation, transgression, revelation. In Celtic folklore, the bear was more than an animal. It was a sacred guardian of the forest, representing strength, cycles of hibernation and rebirth, and the balance between humanity and nature. The number 3, appearing repeatedly in the tale, 3 bowls, 3 chairs, 3 beds, reflects ancient triadic symbolism: the maiden, mother, and crone. Life, death, and rebirth, body, mind, and soul. So perhaps the 3 bears are not simply a family, but incarnations of this triadic power, guardians of nature's eternal cycle. And Goldilocks, the Golden One, is the human soul daring to step into their realm, testing the balance of existence. In that sense, her tasting of the porridge, sitting in the chairs, and sleeping in the beds are not random acts of curiosity. They are symbolic trials, tests of sustenance, comfort, and rest, each representing stages of mortal desire and divine encounter. The myth may have once been a ritual drama enacted by early tribes, where a young initiate entered a sacred dwelling to commune with the animal spirits. The goal was not theft or punishment, but transformation, to learn respect for nature's law. Thus, beneath the surface of a Victorian bedtime story, Goldilocks and the Three Bears hides an ancient initiation myth, one in which the golden-haired soul crosses the threshold into the world of the sacred beasts, learns its limits, and returns forever changed. In 1923, a group of archaeologists excavating the Black Forest region of southern Germany made an unusual discovery. Beneath layers of Iron Age soil, they uncovered a small wooden idol, carved with 3 bear-like figures encircling a smaller female figure whose hair was painted in golden pigment. Around the base were etched the words in Old Norse runes that roughly translated to the guest of the bears. At first, it was dismissed as an odd pagan artifact. Yet over the next decades, similar carvings appeared across Europe, from the Scottish Highlands to the mountains of Slovenia. Each depicted 3 bears and a golden-haired maiden. The pattern was too consistent to ignore. Folklorists and historians began to suspect that the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears might not have originated in Victorian England at all. Instead, it seemed to be a late retelling of a myth that spanned the ancient Indo-European world. In some Slavic regions, the legend spoke of a sun maiden who entered the den of the forest spirits to restore the balance of seasons. In northern Scandinavia, old Sami songs described a ritual at which a young woman approached the den of the sacred bear, offering food, sitting upon its resting stones, and sleeping within its lair to gain prophetic visions. What modern readers view as trespassing or eating, sitting, and sleeping may once have been sacred acts of communion between humans and the animal guardians of the land. Archaeological records also show that the bear was deeply revered across prehistoric Europe. In Neolithic caves of France and Switzerland, bear skulls were arranged ceremonially beside human remains, suggesting a cult of the bear as mediator between life and death. This cult predated Christianity by tens of thousands of years. Scholars now propose that the story of Goldilocks originated from these ancient rites. The House of the Bears was once the cave temple. The porridge symbolized the food offerings shared with spirits. The beds represented the resting place between worlds, a liminal space where the mortal met the divine. When Christianity spread across Europe, such rituals were condemned as pagan. Yet oral traditions survived, transforming sacred rites into cautionary fairy tales. Over time, the bear spirits became anthropomorphized, the Sun Maiden became a mischievous girl, and the sacred encounter was rewritten as a moral warning about intrusion and manners. From the archaeological fragments, the idols, the carvings, the burial sites, one truth emerges: Goldilocks and the Three Bears may well preserve the memory of a prehistoric initiation ceremony, encoded and disguised through centuries of storytelling. Let us now look closer at the story's symbols and their possible meanings. Beneath every action lies an ancient ritual gesture. The porridge, simple and comforting, is no ordinary meal. In many ancient myths, the sharing of food with spirits represented communion between the human and the divine. Goldilocks tasting each bowl signifies the mortal testing the offerings of life, the balance between excess, lack, and harmony, to hot, to cold, and just right mark the soul's search for equilibrium, the middle path known in ancient philosophy of the golden mean. The chairs are not mere furniture, but thrones of power. To sit in another being's seat was once considered a dangerous spiritual act, claiming their essence or challenging their authority. When Goldilocks sits upon the bear's chairs, she symbolically tests her own identity against the primal forces of nature. The breaking of baby bearish chair may represent the shattering of innocence or the violation of the natural order. The beds carry the deepest meaning. In countless myths, the bed symbolizes rest, death, or rebirth. When Goldilocks lies in the smallest bed, just right, she crosses the threshold between the living world and the realm of dreams. It is there, in sleep, that transformation occurs. To fall asleep in the House of the Bears is to surrender the self to nature's guardians and awaken renewed. If one survives the trial, even her golden hair bears ancient weight. In Indo-European mythology, golden hair often symbolized sunlight, divine favor, or the immortal spark within humans. Her intrusion into the shadowy home of the bears mirrors the sun's descent into the underworld during winter. The return of Goldilocks to the world, or her escape, parallels the rebirth of light after darkness. Thus, what seems like a child's mischief may be an allegory of cosmic balance. Goldilocks embodies the human spirit seeking union with nature's eternal powers, the three bears representing the triad of creation, preservation, and destruction. In this reading, her fear and flight at the end of the tale not punishments, but revelations. She has glimpsed the raw power of nature and learned that harmony requires respect. The sacred law of the forest is clear. Those who enter must honor what they find. Ancient storytellers likely preserved these teachings through coded language. Over generations, priests became poets, rituals became fables, and sacred encounters became moral lessons for children. Yet the heart of the myth remains. A golden visitor enters the house of the divine, tests its order, and emerges transformed. Goldilocks is not a thief. She's the eternal seeker. Humanity itself, forever wandering between civilization and the wild, searching for the balance that is just right. The story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears you thought was merely a bedtime tale for children is, in truth, an ancient message carried through millennia. It is a mirror reflecting humanity's relationship with nature, our reverence, our fear, and our longing to belong once more to the living world we have forgotten. What began as a sacred ritual among forest-dwelling tribes became a moral fable, then a nursery story, yet each version holds a trace of the original mystery. The golden-haired visitor, the triad of bears, the forbidden's dwelling, the acts of tasting, testing, and resting. These are not coincidences. They are fragments of a forgotten initiation myth, speaking in symbols older than writing itself. Archaeology gives us bones and carvings. Folklore gives us words and rhythm. Together they reveal the continuity of human imagination, how we encode our oldest fears and hopes into stories that children still whisper at night. When you next hear the tale of Goldilocks, remember that you are hearing more than a fable. You are listening to the echo of an ancient ceremony, a dialogue between humankind and the sacred beasts who once guarded the balance of the earth. It is a story of trespass and revelation, of ignorance and awakening, of life stepping into the mystery of death and returning with the light of understanding. Goldilocks' journey is our own. We, too, wander through the wilderness of existence, tasting, testing, and seeking what feels just right. The bears still wait in their timeless house, reminding us that nature watches and remembers. So the next time you venture into the forest, listen carefully. The wind among the trees may still carry the whisper of the golden-haired visitor and the guardians who once welcomed her or warned her, in a time when stories were spells and the world was alive with meaning. And if that sends a chill down your spine, it should. Because the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears is not merely a tale. It is a relic of human memory, bridging the realms of fairy tale, spirituality, archaeology, and myth. A reminder that beneath every children's story is the shadow of something ancient, and the promise that the next tale we uncover may lead us even deeper into the forgotten world from which all stories were born.